Okay, well, I guess we're going to start on the headers now. So I'm going to take everything off that's necessary from above first, and then I'll come up with some kind of plan to drop this thing, because I'm not going to use the long bolts. I'm not going to order longer bolts or go get all thread or any of the stuff that guy did. I'm just going to use the hoist, or maybe get the jack under the subframe or something to lower it, and then I'll just work around that. So I'll get everything from up here, plug wires, these bolts, those body brace things there, everything from up here, from above first, and then I'll figure out how to drop this thing down, and then from there I'll do all the stuff from down there from below once it's been lowered. So far, so good. Okay, now for the part that I've been dreading, which is hoping that I can get these exhaust manifold bolts out without breaking them. Apparently that's really common. And so what I'm going to do is what I do whenever I'm dealing with some rusty old tractor exhaust manifold bolt. I usually have really good success with it. And that would be basically just beating it one direction with a hammer on the ratchet, and then beating it the other direction, and just keep going back and forth and back and forth. Usually they break loose. This one looks like it's going already. Rather than just, you know, if you just wrench on it and twist on it, it's usually when they break, in my experience. So I'm not going to get overconfident having success on one of them, but that's the bit. That's what I do. Success. Alrighty. I guess I'm gonna have to get the air ratchet for some of those back there, but yeah. It probably wasn't even necessary. Maybe I just, you know, got super lucky and mine weren't gonna break regardless, but that seemed to work relatively well, so. Okay, I'm not necessarily going to say that method is what saved all these. I think I'm under the impression that most of the time when the manifold bolt breaks, it's already broken. But if you're ever worried about a bolt being seized and rusty and all that, just try that method. Now, none of these fought me, but if you're hammering it the direction that loosens the bolt and it's not budging, what I'll do is I'll try to switch the ratchet over to tighten, and then bang on it the other direction a few times, and just keep going back and forth and back and forth. And usually that shock breaks loose the rust and lets the bolts come out. Now it doesn't always work, of course, but I've had pretty good luck with it. So that's my little method for bolts that I'm worried about. Well, I guess I was wrong. I misremembered that he does say to actually remove the mid pipes before dropping it down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, I think should be able to take this manifold off now. Okay, I don't know how well you're even going to be able to see this, but that right back there is the O2 sensor for the driver's side. And it doesn't seem like I can really reach it from below, so now that I've got the manifold out of the way, I can disconnect that and then get that mid pipe out of there. Just want to go ahead and take that diagonal body brace out. Apparently I put these back in too soon, so this is one of the things you're supposed to loosen or take out before you drop the subframe for the header install. He says just take one out. I'm going to take both of them out. Why not? Alright, I guess it's time to remove this coupler. Okay, this is what I've come up with. So I've got this ATV jack, and with the two extensions on it, and this, I think it's a 2x10. It's been ripped down, so if somebody, oh, that doesn't look as wide as a 2x10, well, it's somebody's ripped shims off of it. But anyways, it bridges across the subframe and is not making contact with the oil pan at all. And those two landing pads, or the jacking pads on the actual jack, are across, you know, they're not bearing down in the middle or anything. So I feel really good about this. It's not touching the oil pan at all. So I think that what I'm going to do is put some tension on that and remove the 4 subframe bolts, and then start lowering this thing and seeing if there's anything getting caught, anything not allowing it to move freely down however many inches to gain us some room. Put that header up in there. And then I'm also going to have to check out the coupler and make sure that it's separating properly and all that. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I got an idea for this coupling. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but what if I take these 2 pry bars and just kind of do one of these numbers here. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. So that's disconnected. Alright, let me do a double check of everything else and see how we're looking, see what's binding up. I'm going to leave you there. Everything on the front of the engine looks good. It's not crashing into the radiator or anything. All the suspension looks okay. Okay, the jack is on its jack stand function again. Oil pan is still clear of the jack wood thing, whatever you want to call it. Those lines have plenty of play in them. The upper radiator hose is a little bit pinched, but I think that's fine. We got about, I want to say, 2.5 inches back here at the back bolts, and maybe still at 4 inches in the front, I want to say. So I think we got to continue to go down a little bit more. So I'll do that. Everything still looks good from what I can tell. Still plenty of slack and everything. Everything still looks really good. I think it's a little premature, but I think I might try to stuff a header up in there and see if this is low enough. So let me shoot for that. Yeah, that header wasn't fitting yet, so we gotta keep coming down. Okay, I don't know if you could hear that or not, but well, I'll just bring you over there. It seems that if I go any lower, this thing right here, the joint where that comes into the compressor, starts leaking. I don't know if that thing's loose and it's not tight enough, but I had the same thing happen when I was trying to put engine mounts on this and I had it jacked up too high, but I hear it hissing out. And if you look up here, this pipe right there is actually hitting the body right now, so it's not going to come down any lower than that. So if I can't get the header in right now, then I mean, maybe it just didn't work for me. So that's what I'm running into with this method. Yeah, it's a fact-finding mission. Alright, the next thing I'm going to try here is, if that AC is attached to the engine, then that is probably why the guy tells you to loosen the mount nuts too, and that'll let the frame, the subframe, lower down a little bit more independently of the engine. Because right now the big restriction is getting that rack low enough to where that thing will fit up in here, and the rack is attached to the subframe. So I've got the hoist hooked back up to the engine, so that'll support the engine, and I'll continue dropping the subframe independently of that and see if that clears us enough room right there. Okay, I think I've got it just low enough to where this thing will barely fit up in there. So let's try it. And I hope I don't bump the camera, but it's definitely possible. So if you notice, let me just hold this up here where you can see it. Ding the shit out of these even more. You notice that part where the two primaries go, they make like a little slot in between the two so that the rack can go literally between the primaries. So I'm going to try to feed this up in there so that rack goes between these two. Alright, the rack is through. It's kind of bound up. Okay, there we go. I think we're up in there. Okay, so the hardest part, the supposedly the hardest side, is in place, and it's got 2 bolts started with the gasket in, so that's good. Okay, hopefully there'll be enough room to get this manifold out that direction. Okay, now that one's installed, you know, loosely, bolted in place. So yeah, that's really sweet. I guess I don't see any harm in going ahead and getting everything back up into place the way it's supposed to be. Get the subframe bolted back up, all that stuff. I can tighten these bolts up here, install the spark plugs and the plug wires and all that stuff later. So yeah, that was it wasn't even very hard, honestly. It was a little nerve-wracking dropping all that stuff down, but yeah, pretty happy with that. So I think it's all downhill from here.